high-profile arrest for President Rodrigo Duterte's highest-profile political opponent.
Karangalan ko po na ako'y makulong dahil sa mga pinaglalaban ko po. Pagdasal niyo lang po ako.
Senator de Lima remains in police custody on drug trafficking charges from her time as Justice Secretary. If found guilty, she faces a potential life sentence. She has been a vocal thorn in the president's side, investigating Duterte's involvement in alleged death squads in Davao City when he was mayor, and initiating the inquiry into the national war on drugs which began when Duterte became president. But his supporters say he has done more to end the drugs crisis than any other leader, and they approve. His trust rating sits at 83%. Since the war on drugs began in July last year, more than 7,000 people have died, including 2,555 in police operations. But last month, the president pulled police off that job because he said the force was rotten to the core. Reports suggest he's now considering putting them back to work because there's been a rise in drug sales. And that goes against his promise to the Filipino people.
My campaign against drugs will not stop until the end of my term. That could be 6 years from now. Until the last pusher and the last drug lord are...
But what price is Filipino society willing to pay to clean up the streets? Natalie Pohonen, The Newsmakers.
Joining me now from Manila is Pompey Lavinia. He ran Rodrigo Duterte's social media campaign during the election that catapulted him to the presidency. Pompey, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the program. You know, when we do Philippine shows, sometimes there's pushback from a lot of Filipinos who say you're part of the international media or Western media that's very aggressive and unfair towards our president. So as sort of ground rules, before we even begin, it's completely established that Mr. Duterte was democratically elected. We're not here to question that. We're not here to question that the country has a terrible drug problem, or to question the fact that he's still got massive support from the majority of people in the Philippines. That's accepted, and that's a baseline for the conversation. But we want to question some of the policies, and this includes the treatment of Senator de Lima right now. Is her arrest fair?
Imran, before I answer that question, I just want to clarify that I'm not an official spokesperson of the government right now, but your people were very persistent in asking me to come, and I think you need to hear the Philippine point of view also.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fair. Definitely it's fair because it went through our court system, our judicial system here, of which Senator de Lima herself was Secretary of Justice just a few years back. These are the same processes, the same people, the same judges in the courts that when she was Secretary of Justice, Senator de Lima used to prosecute people that the government felt were guilty of certain crimes. She had no problems with them then, she had no problems with the system then, but now she appears unwilling to subject herself to the same rules, the same procedures, the same judges that she was more than willing to embrace when she was the Secretary of Justice. So it's fair, totally fair.
Okay, I spoke to her in December. I asked her why she called the president a self-confessed serial killer. Have a little listen to a clip of that interview from December.
His policy is really summary killings of drug suspects. So that's why I called him a self-confessed serial killer, because he is the one responsible for the mass murders of thousands of suspected criminals.
So Pompey, her criticism of him has been extremely harsh, extremely personal. And don't you think a lot of people would find it convenient that the most outspoken critic of President Duterte, who is a senator, who's a former justice minister, who was on the Senate Commission on human rights, who wants to impeach him, now suddenly is arrested on drug trafficking charges. It sounds very personal, not only for her, but personal for him. That's why people think it's politically motivated.
Yeah, well, it's also extremely false. Her accusations that the president confessed to mass murder. There's no evidence of that whatsoever, that he has done that. And being a lawyer, she knows that. Now, there is no secret that there's acrimony between the two parties. That is widely covered in the press. But to say that this is the reason why she has been brought to the bar of justice is a totally different thing. She is not being accused of a crime that is related to being against the president or being an enemy of the president, but she is being brought to justice for crimes allegedly committed while she was Secretary of Justice. And these crimes basically include cuddling drug dealers in the National Penitentiary and receiving bribes from them. It went through the process. The prosecutor's office found that there was enough evidence to bring it to the judge, and the judge found that there's enough evidence to issue a warrant for her. None of the accusations against her is about politics. So I don't know, I mean, if we exempt everybody who's a political enemy of anybody in power, then would that free these people then to commit any crime? Because if you bring them to justice, then they would say that this was politically motivated. She did the same thing when she was Secretary of Justice.
Okay.
She brought charges against people that were the perceived enemies of the administration she was serving. But, you know, those cases prospered on their own merits. Some were dismissed,
sure,
some are still going on, and some probably will result in convictions.
So you're saying it's not politically motivated. Let me bring up your tweets from February 23rd. So I'm going to bring up the first one. The first one, you have a picture of her up against the height chart when she's being arrested or booked. Never underestimate the political will of this president. And then about an hour later, Delilah's dare, arrest me now, done. Aren't you basically saying in those tweets that this is politically motivated? You're saying you take on the big man, you face the consequences. That's my interpretation of your tweets, Pompey.
No, when I said the political will of the president to kill the drug problem, to finish the drug problem in my country once and for all, including people, senators, if they're involved in it. That's what I meant with political will, not the political will to persecute a specific person. I mean, there are many critics of the president right now. There's the vice president who disagrees with him on certain policies. Many senators disagree with him on certain policies. But she's the only one who got herself involved in drugs, protecting drug lords and taking bribe money. At least that's what the allegations are. Now, she has all the chance in the world to defend herself. You know, we have a high bar. You know, our justice system here demands that guilt be proven beyond reasonable doubt. And we are far from that. What has been brought are charges and in the court, and this is a chance for her to prove, you know, that these charges are not true. Actually, it's the government's job to prove that she's guilty beyond reasonable doubt, and she has to defend herself. And the other tweet I have that she said, arrest me, that is something that she did say. She said, arrest me now. She dared the president to arrest me now. And at that point, that when I made the tweet, she had been arrested. So done is an appropriate word.
Sure, but she's saying arrest me. She's saying arrest me if you disagree with me because I'm fighting against you politically. She said it is my honor to be imprisoned for the things I'm fighting for. That's what she means. She means make me a political prisoner. She doesn't mean, hey, I'm guilty of drug trafficking, does she?
I don't know what she means, but what I meant was that she had dared the president or the establishment to jail her now, and the justice system have moved far enough that a warrant had been issued for her arrest. So it's done. That's what I meant.
Okay. I just want to ask you a final question in terms of whether she'll get a fair trial. Given that we've seen more than 7,000 killings, and this is the sticking point for a lot of rights groups and a lot of international condemnation. They're saying that the president is soft on extrajudicial killings, or maybe he even supports extrajudicial killings. So given that we're in an atmosphere where suspects are being killed, they're still called suspects because they've never had their moment in court, given that current political atmosphere and legal atmosphere in the country, will she get a fair trial?
Yes, she will. First of all, Imran, you know, extrajudicial killing, the definition of that implies that it's state-sponsored. No evidence has ever been presented that is sponsored by the state. Now, there are vigilante killings. I think everybody would agree on that. That's out there, you know, for everybody to know. But what is the relation to her not getting a fair trial? These are the same judges, the same processes, the same courts that she herself subjected to those that were prosecuted by the state to. So, you know, nothing has changed there except that now she is the one being brought to justice. You know, I mean, Senator De Lima and her supporters have to understand that we have a democracy and everybody is equal. It doesn't mean that they're exempt. If you think you can bring somebody else to justice, to these courts, these processes, then you yourself should welcome the opportunity to defend yourself under the same circumstances. So, yes, you will get a fair trial.
Okay, Pompey Lavinia, it's always a pleasure having you on the program. We thank you once again. Bye-bye.